the village board trustees that we will enter into the record as well. Okay. So thank you for that, everybody. All right. First up, Deborah Hall, 205 East 4 Mile Road. And thank you for coming today.
Yesterday, I sent a copy of the petition to each of you, and after I sent it, people stopped by my house with more signatures. So we have over 180 signatures, about 11% of the entire village population, including children. The petition seeks to accomplish the following. For one, to ask you to vote no on including the 4.2 million line item in the 2026 budget for a new municipal building, and two, to request that you not commit any further expenditures in support of the $4.2 million plan until you have determined by a disciplined process and a vote of the whole board the most cost-effective approach to meet the office needs of the village. I don't know if any of you have received calls from village residents, but at my house, I'm getting lots of calls for information and general anger that you would spend this much for such a small village. We have provided the names and addresses of those who have signed so far, and I'm going to repeat the exact wording of the petition that we circulated. We, the residents of Wind Point, respectfully request that you remove the 4.2 million for a new municipal building from the 2026 budget and instead conduct a thorough due diligence process to determine the most cost-effective approach to addressing the problems with the current village office. In addition, we are asking that you not spend any additional funds to advance the $4.2 million proposal and not add 4.2 million for the building in the debt issuance, the first debt issuance in 2026. In the background information, we provided emails online and in our conversations with neighbors. We clearly stated that we believe the current village office does have significant issues that need to be addressed, and that voting in the village garage is not ideal. Twice a year, not a big deal, but it's not ideal. Our concern is that based on your votes and actions over the last several months, you seem to be considering only one option. The building that in our view is much larger and more costly than what we need or can afford. This is particularly concerning when at the same time, the village needs to spend millions of dollars on long overdue infrastructure projects, like what's going on right now in my front yard. We had hoped not to have to resort to a petition to drive to get your attention, but several of us have written emails and attended and made public comments at multiple meetings for months to no avail. The 4.2 million is still in the budget, and we've been told funding at that level may be included in the general obligation note issued in 2026. We also realized as we talked to friends and neighbors these last 2 weeks, we got 180 signatures in 2 weeks. You could get people really hot really quick, because I've seen it before when they wanted to build a municipal building.
We're there.
So thank you for your
You
time.
bet. Thanks for your information. Appreciate that. All right, Susan Greenfield, 114 Woodfield Court.
So I don't need to restate my name and address.
You're good.
Okay. I know how hard you work. I served on the Caledonia board for 8 years. We dealt with a lot of tough issues. And I know one thing I learned was need to hear from residents, especially when large expenditures were being proposed, and equally important, the need to provide detailed information to residents so they could be fully informed before any final decisions were made. This board is embarking on historic large expenditures and borrowing, but scant information is reaching the residents. There is unfortunately a lack of transparency. All year, the board never mentioned the $4.2 million cost of the municipal building in any of the communication to residents. They never mentioned any of the capital investment dollars or the debt dollars or the tax increase dollars or the rate increases for the water main project. The newsletter, the village newsletter, lists dates and times for meetings, but says nothing, absolutely nothing about a proposed new village municipal building, or any other options for addressing the problems with the current village office. Most people learned about it from a postcard sent to residents this summer, funded by a group of concerned citizens, not sent by the village board. In addition, the newsletter does not inform taxpayers of the proposed borrowing for long-term water main project and financial impact on our taxes and utility rates. This should be communicated widely in the newsletter. Why aren't these critically important issues being communicated via the newsletter and other communication channels? You refer people to the village website, but finding information there is very, very difficult. Not only are the packets hundreds of pages with multiple documents, but you also need to know which committee or trustee meeting they are attached to, something you can't expect residents to figure out on their own. To improve transparency, put the proposed capital improvement plan items and estimated costs and tax impacts in the newsletter, which is much more accessible on an ongoing basis throughout the year, long before it is final. Use every communication channel available to communicate to residents: the website, the newsletter, special meetings, mailings, newspaper. You cannot communicate too much to the residents when large expenditures are being proposed. Thank you.
You nailed it. You bring say it home.
Who do I give that to?
It was on down the
For
track.
extra copies.
All right. Thank you, Susan. Valley Peckus. 310 East Point View.
Good morning. I agree wholeheartedly with everything that's been said. And this is kind of a trick or treat kind of a thing. The so-called campus seems to be moving along in a rather rushed and stealthy process. It's been started without public input and even public debate. Not acceptable. The resources of Wind Point's public park access will shrink as you move to spend your tax dollars. The long-term impact will not only be affected on our economy, but will have a long-lasting impact on each and every household that may not be able to afford the tax increases, and that's not nice. I worked for years with realtors who would go to their clients and ask the buyers and ask them for a list of needs and wants. I'll put that same question to the board, and then especially to the public. The cost will continue with added upkeep, maintenance, and most likely added employment. What are the needs and wants of the residents of Wind Point? After chatting with some of my Wind Point residents, many of whom I've never met, the consensus is clear and loud. We don't need this, and we also don't want it. What you as a board are not in line with is the public interest. You want more than the public wants or needs. I wonder if you thought about how this action would be accepted by the Wind Point residents. I wonder if you knew that it wouldn't be well received. Did you then say, how can we get this cute and hide it and slide it through? A little cynical of me, granted, but this project seems a bit rushed and poorly planned. What must we do to stop you from shoving this through? How about you put this rush to spend people's money to the voters of Wind Point? This is our green space, our public facilities that we, the people, should have a say in. Lastly, don't put us in a finance hole with a high interest loan. Don't fast track Wind Point residents to be financially stressed that we don't need or want. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Appreciate it. Peggy Peckus, 310 East Point View.
Hi, I'm Peggy Peckus, 310 East Point View. I live right by the park. It's my park. It's my neighbor's park. It's all of our park. It's a green space that is, I mean, we don't have a lot of green, public green spaces in our town. And it's not that big. It's small, it's cute, it's quaint. It's perfect the way it is, though, for us, our small town. It's the character of Wind Point. It's full of children. It's full of people walking dogs. It's got a little library. It's got a playground. It's got green space. It's perfect the way it is. Your proposal to take away half of that green space and make a building and a parking lot totally wipes away the whole character of that lovely, lovely, quaint park in our beautiful little town. And it just breaks my heart to have that taken away. It would take away the whole character of our village. Everyone that lives around the park, it walks their dog every day there, twice a day. I go and take a walk myself, and I'm walking around on the lovely path that was, the path, the walking path that was put in. It's a great little walk to take every day. But to visualize myself walking around a building and a parking lot instead of green space and trees, it breaks my heart. It's such a treasure. It's priceless space that once you take it away, we'll never get it back again. And it just brings me to tears because that's how I feel about it. And I think that's how all of our residents that use the park feel about it.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Jane Met, 4350 Lighthouse.
And Emily, did you want to speak? She's gonna.
I'm on the list.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Regarding the proposed $4.2 million building, consolidation gives every function extra space because the functions really overlap in the use of the building. Office staff during the business day, voting 4 times a year, police officers work mainly nights and mainly in vehicles. It occurred to me that in the proposed building, the police department has the run of the whole place at night. So they do not need to build dedicated space that is double what they have today. The office, for the most part, has to run a place during the business day. So they do not need to build dedicated space 80% larger than they have today. They're all sharing building space, which is really a concept applied in offices all over the country. A 4,500 square foot building could support the current 2,500 square foot office, the current 1,200 square foot police department, which includes the garages, and 800 square feet for the village hall. Combining that 800 square feet with the current conference room gives you the 1,000 square feet for voting in village hall. Digitized files, that frees up another 200 square feet or more to enlarge the garages for the high trucks. So we can build modestly now and expand in the future if needed. In fact, Excel said in a board meeting that we're lucky because we can expand the building later. The garage itself is planned for 773 square foot. The remainder of the building would be 3,700 square feet, accessible for the most part by the office during the business day and the police at night. This would remove 3,600 square feet from the proposed 8,100 square foot building. It could be placed in the current office location, save the park, avoid the $805,000 access road and parking lot. And anything beyond that should really be cost justified. The office could rent at 3 Mile and Main during the construction. They could even rent there until after the operating revenue referendum. And the decision is made regarding keeping our own police department versus contracting for police services. So there are viable options and options that would provide a significantly lower cost. And this is what the residents are waiting to hear back on. Build a 4,500 square foot building that's almost half the size of the proposed 8,100 square foot building for all functions. Have the office rent at 3 Mile and Main, short-term or long-term, and that's the 5,000 square foot space, not the 8,600 square foot space. And have the police department remain where they are, enlarge one garage. Have the police department rent at 3 Mile and Main with the garages remaining at the lighthouse. If the police move out, renovate the lighthouse for voting and village hall. Renovate the public works garage and allow voting to continue there. Build a smaller building now and expand later if needed. So I thank you very much.
Thanks, Jan. Appreciate it. Thanks for the follow-up. And you nailed 3 minutes too. All right. Oh, good. Emily Mueller, 34 Lakewood.
It's Miller.
I'm sorry.
It's Miller. I always mess that up. All right.
Don't let that happen again. All right.
All right. I have participated via Zoom and or reviewed minutes and the video of some of the PFIC and village board meetings that I didn't tune into. But I've not spoken before on the budget, particularly the plan for the $4.2 million municipal building because I wanted to have a better understanding of your process and your plans before I spoke. I am aware of the many issues regarding the village's current office space, but I'm concerned that a greater analysis of the needs and options to address our space and accessibility needs does not appear to have been done, at least not from the public information available, before proposing an 8,100 square foot, $4.2 million building. At the last village board meeting, the board did approve the CIP for 2026, at least preliminarily. And while the plan contained a provision for the $4.2 million building, the PFIC chair stated there's been talk, yes, about looking at a municipal building as part of that. We've left it in there just for purposes of it being there to, and then there was some statements I didn't quite all hear, but it referred to trustee Gasparo asking at the last PFIC meeting, what are we looking at, where we are, and mentioning certain options that had been before the board 15 years ago. But there was no indication that any of the options had as yet been explored for purposes of the budget. PFIC chair went on to say it doesn't mean it gets done, it's just in there. It could go away if the village board has no desire for it. It could go back a few years. And then finally, there was a statement by someone, I think on the board, who said, this is just approval of the budget, not approval of the actual borrowing. And yet, as I understand it, there is a plan to include the 4.2 million in the first tranche of borrowing. And you've also applied for a grant from the state that, as I understand the application required that you were ready to make a 4.2 million investment and that you have the support of the residents to do that. You've also in prior meetings discussed spending $250,000 for design engineering, starting the process to hire a construction manager. And all of this looks like far more than a placeholder. Instead of being placated that this is just a placeholder, I would like to see it removed from the 2026 budget and addressed at a later date, perhaps after next year's referendum on the future of our police department, until a true needs assessment has been done and all of the options explored. Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, Nikki Fisher, 161 Maribor.
6-1 River, your neighbor
Yeah,
around the corner.
you still wave at me, that must be a good
I
sign.
do.
Some don't.
I first heard about the proposed municipal building in July. By that time, you already had some drawings and estimates, but it wasn't clear you'd made any final decisions, as Emily talked about even yet. So I decided to try to learn more. In early August, I attended the Ehlers presentation, and that led me to dig into documents and minutes from past meetings to see if I could better understand your decision-making process. Because I couldn't find anything, later that month, I sent the board an email asking how you prioritize and decide what is appropriate to spend on capital projects. In that email, I also laid out a simple process that I had used in my business career to evaluate and justify capital expenditures of this magnitude. In September, along with 25 other residents, I attended a budget listening session where we were told nothing was decided yet, as Emily said, and that it was just a placeholder and nothing would happen until the budget was approved. After that, I attended more PFIC and board meetings, and spoke to you in some of those. And then I met privately with Allison and Travis. In that meeting, I was told that in December, you all quote unquote agreed that the current municipal plan was the right way to go, but I couldn't find any references to votes or other information in November or December minutes that had been officially done. I also exchanged emails with Trustee Gasparo and was heartened to hear that he planned to create a spreadsheet that compared the options for the current village office issues. The spreadsheet he shared with me is in your packet, but it is still blank except for one number, 10.8 million, which was apparently an earlier proposal to spend not just 4.5 million on the municipal building, 800,000 on a road, but also 5.5 million on new public works building. That obviously is no longer a serious option. So here we are. It's November and nothing has changed. You're about to recommend a capital budget that still contains 4.2 million for a new municipal building. But it's not just me or Jane or Dave or Bill or others who come before you for months asking these questions. It's now at least, and very soon to be 200 residents of Wind Point asking, how did you decide that 4.2 million is the only and best choice? Did you consider other options? Is this the most fiscally responsible decision you can make on our behalf? You had a template to do this right, the 2010 study, and you even had an individual who was involved in that study who was willing to help you think through updated options. And Jane has given you very, very detailed analysis. You could have even stipulated that renovating the existing office was not an option and gone from there. And nobody would have really argued with you on that. If you'd done that in December or April or June, or even last month, then communicated a clear rationale for your decision to the citizens of Wind Point, we wouldn't be standing here today with almost 200 of your residents asking you questions.
Thank you.
But it's not too late.
For there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, Charlie Manning. 1001 Lighthouse Drive.
Haven't moved an inch.
1001 and a half or anything?
No, 4001 A Space Odyssey. So in any case, I look at this from the perspective of a small business. And this is what we're running here. It's a $1.5 million business. That's the sort of crummy business I ran for 40 years. There's no possibility that we would consider $1 million property, let alone $500,000, because guess what? You got to include the secret access road. So that's my first point. If I had taken this to a loan committee, they would have laughed. What's the potential for growth in the village? 5 to 10% declining over the next decade. So that's my first point. And then I have, and I don't mean to be critical, but I think I have an overwhelming feeling that this is a runaway project. And then when I see $530 a square foot for the construction costs, I have no possibility of understanding the finished materials that are being used. I'm sure, well, I won't get into it, but marble isn't that expensive. We want to allocate, I don't know what it is, 1,500 square feet to a police department that I'm virtually certain that this board will decide that Caledonia's got a better deal for us. And again, that's a little business that has declining revenue and increasing costs. And it's going 3% the wrong way, going apart. And I don't think that any dedicated space for that. We've been working on this police department for 5 decades or 4 decades, I'm sure. And I don't think the necessity. Now, here's what we gotta do. Gotta do ADA.
Yes.
Okay, that's a must. You know, that's been in business, that's been legislated for 1990. So do the math. That's 35 years. We don't comply hardly anywhere. And then last thing is that I would ask the board and myself not to consider a fiduciary decision that will oblige us or will show as a legacy of debt to my heirs and assigns and future residents. Go in peace.
Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate it. Still 5 seconds if you want.
5 seconds?
Yeah.
And by the way,
One more.
All right. And before we get to online, we have Terry Meyer. Say that right?
Yes.
Okay, 350 East Point View Drive. Floor is yours, Terry. Hey.
Hey, I'm Terry Meyer, 350 East Point View Drive. I worked for the City of Racine Finance Department for like 30 years. So I understand budgets. I understand your dilemma here. I mean, I understand when you can't raise your taxes to a certain percentage. So I understand all this stuff. Really, and everybody has kind of talked about what we could have different options here. So I'm not even going to that. I'm going to go into, I use the park all the time. I walk my dog to, I've had dogs since I've lived here, which is about 25 years. I walk my dogs. I enjoy the park. Everybody enjoys that park. And now you're going to tell me that you're going to take part of it and we're going to have this building, we're going to have traffic and we're going to have, and I think it's you have so few green spaces here to enjoy and to, you know, have the kids and animals, and we see more kids. We see people walking all the time. So I have a lot of concerns about the fiscal part of it. I looked at the budget, I looked at the capital improvement project, I know TIFs, I know we can't have TIFs, we don't have really that much growth. I was grant manager for the city of Racine for like 20 years. I understand grants. And when you commit to certain criteria you should meet that criteria for that grant. And I don't think your residents are happy with this move right now. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Appreciate it, sir. All right. Trustee Glass is here. All right, anyone online want to talk? I see staff, I see Casey for the next agenda. I see Jim I'll go to Jim Westfall. You want to chat, Jim? Or just taking it all in?
No, thank you. Just listening.
All right, thank you. Tom Johnson, would you like to speak? Don't have to. All right, MK Hall, I'm assuming that's Mary Kay Hall. Would you like to chat, Mary Kay?
That's me. No, thank you.
Okay, sounds good. And Alex Kuchich, I'm sorry, I apologize. Would you like to speak there? Okay, all right, I assume then that Tom and Alex are just taking things in. All right, appreciate it. We do have, like Charlie, we have somebody who couldn't make it today because they had a doctor's appointment, eye appointment. And that would be trustee now acting as I read this as a resident, Linda Johnson of 10 Pinewood Court. Linda wrote to Travis this morning. He printed this. It is disheartening to read statements on social media and petitions that the trustees need to identify real needs, determine what we can afford, analyze viable options, and then develop a detailed plan that can be budgeted and implemented. All these statements were provided on a recent petition regarding the proposed municipal building. What leads anyone to believe this has not been done? Nowhere on the petition does it address any significant issues the village has with a failing building and non-compliant voting facility. Those circulating and signing the petition do not attend all meetings and have no clue on what has or hasn't been done. Again, I'm going to just speak for a second. Not everybody in the room who does show. I can count on one hand the number of residents who are concerned. The board has been talking about this for 11 months. The decision to sign is based on inaccurate information. The trustees have identified the need to continue to determine what we can afford and looked into recommended viable options. The current plan is listed on the website. Insinuating that the board has not done its due diligence is false. Asking people to sign based on untrue, deceptive, and misleading information is wrong. I question the validity of the petition. I spoke with residents who questioned a $4.2 million expenditure. However, they had no knowledge that when the village bought the house in the 1980s, there were defects noted that were never fixed. They did not know that in 2010, the village board explored the state of the house and some were insisting the new building needed to be built. At that time, the foundation walls were shifting. There were multiple lateral cracks. There was expansion and movement to the upper level. The live load exceeded the building design, the foundation leaks, and it isn't handicap accessible. It was determined at that time that the cost of repairs would far exceed the market value of the property. And 15 years later, nothing has been repaired, and these issues have gotten worse. I would encourage this committee to determine a cost for a smaller scale building that still meets the current and future needs of the village. Signed, Linda Johnson. Okay, so you gave us all a copy, right? So you have a copy for the record, just like everybody else's. Okay. All right. I'm going to make one comment as a citizen here for a second. Rob Rupp, 135 Terry Court. I've been out here since 2002. I do not remember seeing anything sent to me. We had no Facebook. We didn't have a good website. We didn't have social media. We had a paper newsletter, and I don't remember seeing anything regarding 6 options back in 2010. None. Okay, just like everybody else who come late to the party, including me at that point in time, I could say the same things people are saying now. This has been discussed, in a lot of meetings, and we appreciate the input. A lot of what you've all said is very valid, and we are looking at other things as well. As we go on, we get educated as well. when we started the CIP, we had to, you start big, you don't start small and then go up. You start high and then you whittle things down, just like somewhat of, not trying to put words into Charlie's mouth, but Charlie said is, hey, is the business, size valid? So anyway, that's my comment. All right,
Can I make a comment?
no. Just because,
Not on the list.
people here, have it, we're past this in comment time. Let's, take a look at the meeting minutes from October 7th, for the PFIC meeting. Do you have any questions, concerns on the minutes?
I move that we approve the meeting minutes from October 7th.
All right, all in favor? Aye. No opposed, and no abstaining. None there. All right, review and possibly take action on Ayler's contract. And Casey from Ayler's, if you could help us all out with why we're here today and explain what you'll do for us.
Sure. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for allowing us to provide this proposal for referendum levy limit referendum services. So, Travis, do you have could you give me the ability to share? I just have a short presentation to go through with the committee, kind of to outline sort of what the process is for going through a referendum process and determination. So what we basically are outlining here is kind of like what the kind of ins and outs and what our proposal will address. But the main thing, I guess, is kind of start off with is it's a policy decision. So what we really want if we are to be hired and to do this work is what increases in funding are needed, what services and departments are needing those service or needing that increase in funding, positions that will be maintained or added with funding, programs or services. What's the overall right dollar amount, and then what's the impact on the overall budget? What's the impact on taxpayers? What's the impact on the overall levy? And then how long will you need to increase in the increase in funding to occur for? So, Travis, if you want to go to the page 3 here, which is the levy limit referendum title. So under statute, you're allowed, the statute's listed there, 66-06024. It allows you to exceed your allowable limit by referendum. So what that entails is that the governing body is required to adopt a resolution that must include the levy increase, the percent of increase over the allowable levy, and then whether the increase is going to be for the next fiscal year or for a set number of years or ongoing. So you have a number of determinations to make as to most communities, I will say, do probably a ongoing, which means that you're essentially increasing your levy above your allowable levy for an ongoing period of time. And then the language question, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is dictated by statute, must be contained in the resolution. So what we do is, Travis, if you want to go to the next page there, is how do we assist? So we assist with basically the calculation and then helping you kind of refine the question. So this is an example here, the Village of Badger. So what we do is we'll take your actual information and then what the estimated budget will be, and then come up with a number of scenarios determining what that amount is. So what we see here is if you kind of focus in on the very, very low corner with the blue amount, that's basically the levy increase that's approved by the referendum. So we'll take what your actuals were for your budget or your audit, what your estimated or your budget is for this year, and then we'll plug in the numbers to see exactly what that calculation is. And we'll work with you to determine sort of what that number needs to be and how many different options that there are moving forward. So we can do up to 4 different scenarios to basically show then what that increase will be. This is taking information from your levy limit worksheets as well as your budget. So basically taking what your allowable amounts are, what your allowable limits are, and then plugging in kind of what that dollar figure is, working with you to determine that right dollar figure to make an increase proposal. The next page there is then the question. So if Travis, you want to go to page 5. So this is a thought out planning process to discuss the level of detail that we included in the question and then explain what the increase is for. So you are stipulated under statute to say certain things within that levy limit referendum question. However, there are things that you can add in there, and we can talk about that through the process of how much how much additional information do you want to include there. So you want to obviously weigh the need for transparency with the length of the actual question, need to flexibility potentially to redeploy parts of that if that's maybe necessary. You also want to have enough information out there that's community education is critical. So you want to be able to articulate and explain exactly what you're asking of your voters, and then be able to share those questions and content calculations with the DOR at the point of adoption. So if you go to the next slide, this is the question, and really here in the blue, the white is what is required. The orange that's listed here is what you insert. And you could add in more than that, but the white is what is required. Basically what you're allowed to add in is financial figures, as well as determining the level of detail of explaining the referendum. But the structure of the question has to remain unchanged. Again, what it's saying here is you kind of plug in what your specific needs are, or what you're specifically asking for of your voters, and then adding to that detail whether or not you would need to do, or what you would need to do in terms of adding to that detail. Then the next slide here, this is just again what our a scenario that we would put together for with the assistance of staff and the board. This is basically looking at your what your options are in terms of a referendum amount that you'd be looking at. And then putting that in based upon valuations of property. So, and this would get out sort of what your actual taxes are for these particular properties, what the projected amounts were if you were to add in a referendum. In this case, this is showing a $1.3 million increase, and what the annual tax increase would be from the actual tax bill to the projected tax bill on an annual basis and a monthly basis, and then what those dollar changes are. And we can add in from here, if you wanted to look at a number of different options. So let's say we'll just put a number out there. Let's say $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million. Those can be added in there, and this can be customized to essentially show kind of what those projections would be with regards to the levy limit and referendum impact.
And Casey, that page is Village of Badger as well, just for everybody in the room that can't necessarily see the print of the
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep. And then again, we would show this sort of what the impact is here. This is kind of just a chart. So again, the deliverables that we were showing here are charts that basically show what the impact is from a taxable standpoint. So what we do is this obviously takes the information that was on the last chart, puts it into more of a graphical form that you can then present to residents, show them at meetings, use as part of flyers or any other kind of communications that you may be utilizing to get that information out to your residents. But just wanted to talk timelines really quick here. So there's 4 elections coming up in 2026. All of those elections are eligible for a referendum question. So you are limited in terms of the elections that you can choose to go to. And we just obviously, as part of the planning process, just want the committee and the board to understand kind of what the timelines are that are involved. So these are the milestones that are required for the spring primary, which is in February, the spring election, which is in April, the partisan primary, which is in August, and then the general election, which will be in November. So there is a pretty decent amount of lead time in order for you to make that decision as to what you want to do and get that local question to the county clerk. And by the time it actually has to go to the voters. So as an example here, if you look at kind of the partisan primary, the deadline to file the question with the local clerk that would actually be Travis, is June 2nd. Then he would have to send it to the county clerk on June 3rd, and it's not till August 11th. So there's a significant amount of time that you have to basically you have to be ready to go in order to put it on that particular date for voting. And then just kind of another related issue with timelines. And I think I understood from talking with Travis, you maybe are looking at an August primary, or the August primary, but anything that's any election that is used, or that any election that you go to prior to August 15th does require you to use last year's, or I should say last assessment year's numbers. Net new construction numbers don't come out until August 15th. They're not certified by the Department of Revenue. Values are also not certified by the Department of Revenue until August 15th. So you're basically using, in this particular situation, if you're going to referendum in February, April, or August, you're using 2025 numbers because 2026 numbers haven't been certified by the Department of Revenue. That's okay. That's not necessarily a huge deal. It makes it a little easier in terms of drafting the question because you're using last year's numbers because you don't know current year numbers yet. However, if you do go to November for the referendum, it does require really two things, and it's a much quicker turnaround because you have about 9 to 10 days to revise your calculation on what your referendum needs to be, the dollar amount that it needs to be, because the DOR has certified the values and you have to use those values as of August 15th. So you basically have a deadline of, you have the August 15th is when the values come out. You have to file the question on the 24th with Travis. You have to file the question with the county clerk on the 25th for election day on the 2nd. In this situation too, you also have to adopt two budgets because you'll be going through the budget process and you won't necessarily, I should say maybe not adopt two budgets, but you have to be working on two budgets because you basically have to create a budget where your status quo, where there's no referendum that's approved, and a budget there that is that would include the referendum increase. So just some things to think about in terms of when you're deciding you'd want to go to referendum. So anything prior to August, you have to use last year's values, last year's property values, which then determines what your tax rate and levy will be. If it's November, you have to use current year values or August values that are certified August 15th, but you have to adopt, or you have to work on two budgets simultaneously. And then this is just a timeline for the task list. Just kind of so you're aware. There are a lot of notices that have to go out. That's something that that Travis will do as your clerk in conjunction with the county clerks. These are type A, type E, type B, C, and D notices. These are election related notices, but there is the requirement you have to draft your own documentation for those notices related to the referendum, basically outlining the question, publication requirements, and posting requirements for those. And we would assist with the drafting of those notices as well. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Just generally for the record and for this room. Travis, can you explain what the referendum is for? Why are we asking for a referendum? Just as information for the group here.
Sure. Did be an operating referendum due to the village's net new construction not being able to keep up with inflation and costs rising to the budget. So in the budget packet, there's like a CPI versus kind of our net new construction to show kind of the differences in that. But so the only way to be able to increase the levy is by a referendum to the voters. So that's why we've hired Ellers to consult with us during a long time. We've also had them do an FMP with 8 different workshops that outline possibilities to help with that as well, and recommendations to our budget. So we've been working with them for a while now to make sure we're financially stable in the next 5 years in 2030. And there's charts in the packet that show the impact if nothing were to happen with the fund balance dipping below, I think, 10-15%. So the questions and the policy would be a policy decision on how that format is decided by you guys. So you could do operating or you could tie it to public safety. That would be your decision to make.
So the general fund, we're looking at the general fund over the next 5 years, we're steadily decreasing.
Yeah, we're taking a lump sum out of the general to cover the general part of the budget because it just doesn't balance. So we take our fund balance and apply it to make the balance of the budget.
We actually need this for operation purposes. To
Correct,
be able to provide the services for the village that they want and need.
correct.
Okay.
It's to maintain the current needs of the village right now.
So just to piggyback on that, so the fund balance applied is about 227,000 this year currently.
Yeah, I've seen
100,000 of it is for the referendum. So if we choose not to do the referendum, we're 127,000 in the hole, okay? We only have $21,000 for the lowest since I've been on here in capital projects outside of the road, okay? Outside of any potential building, but from the standpoint of paying it out of cash on hand, so we'd be about 127 short, and that's it, well, 100 short if we did nothing every year. Didn't buy a copier, didn't buy a truck, didn't buy a police car, so that's how bare bones we are. And this group, I'll only speak for myself, I don't want to go through the roughly $2 million we have and then address this. You know, the nice thing about having cash that a lot of municipalities, when I've talked with Travis and I'm in there and he's saying, hey, how about this on the budget? And it's just usually putting in field or whatever. Some of his colleagues are like, wow, you guys have that much money? Are you kidding me? I'm sure there'll be some people in the room who'll spend it. It's gonna be gone real quick. The nice thing about that is, let's say we have to do an engineering study, right? And we end up throwing that into the borrow down the line, but we gotta pay for it up front. These engineering studies on that road was $190,000. We darn well better keep $190,000. And a lot more than that, actually. It gives us flexibility. So that's why this whole discussion started, and that's where it is here today. And I'll jump off, following up yours. Do you have any questions yourself?
No, the sad part is that because it's operational, it gets to the point where, what do you want to live without? And how much do you want, what do you want us to cut? We've already determined that right now, it's more cost effective for us to keep our police department than to farm it out to Caledonia. Should we start looking at farming out our DPW? Should we, what do we do?
Become North Bay.
Right. Or we could become part of Caledonia.
Yeah.
Tom Weatherston asks me all the time, we'll let you keep your name, but we'll take you over.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like,
You need a referendum to do that too.
well, yes, you did. And I said, no, the people of Glen Point do not want to become part of Caledonia.
So what happens, if we don't do the referendum and we go into a deficit position, what happens then? What state regulations are we?
We just keep drawing on the general fund until a board in the future decides that a referendum is needed. So, there's different ways to look at it. You could look at it like, do you do this now? And there actually was someone in the crowd at a previous meeting that did mention a referendum and getting out in front of that. And so, seems like if at least that person, not a few people are on the same wavelength, you could kick it down the road a little bit, but we're already 15 going on 16 years down the road with a facility that's ADA compliant. I mean, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So.
Casey has this.
Yeah, I just kind of to add to that too, in terms of fund balance, obviously there's a right, or I should say there's certain metrics that you want to hit when it comes to fund balance. And if you're continuously operating at a deficit, there's, you're gonna, I don't want to say run afoul per se of anything like statutorily, but what you're going to run into is, and particularly if you're considering borrowing for capital projects, i.e. roads, that ties into potentially how underwriters or credit rating agencies are looking at the village in terms of what its ability to pay for services are. So obviously, we've talked this with the board as part of your FMP process of looking at long-term borrowing in the municipal securities market and potentially going out for a credit rating with one of the Moody's or S&P. Moody's and S&P look at a favorable fund balance as a good credit rating, which then can help in turn with your overall cost of borrowing in the marketplace. So that's something if you continuously are spending down your fund balance, even though you have a good surplus right now, that starts to negatively affect you if you want to take on projects in the future potentially.
Thank you for adding that, Casey. Very important point. Can I also ask you, because somebody made a question about a really high interest rate in their comment. where are rates right now for municipal projects as far as a range? You know, if you don't want to give us the lowest because you don't want to commit, then give me the highest. Give me the highest.
Yeah, let me, we're seeing them anywhere between, right now about 3.5% to 4.5% in the competitive market. That obviously varies based upon the municipality's location, whether or not they're rated or not. Obviously, a rating carries a little more weight than a non-rated in terms of what the rates are. Certainly, if you go out to competitive market, it's more than likely, I would almost say always will be, but it's more than likely going to be a more cost-effective option in terms of a rate than it would be by, let's say, going to a bank. There are interest rate costs, obviously, associated with that. There's cost of issuances and things like that. But yeah, we're seeing anywhere, and we've seen rates stabilize. So I would say, 4% seems to be kind of what we've been using as a planning metric right now, maybe 4.5%. But we've seen it come down lower than that with certain issuances.
Okay, so 4.5, which I bought my first house, it was 6.5. So a lot better than that.
I paid 8 points to get mine at 9.
My dad had to borrow from my grandpa.
Just show you how things fluctuate.
I have one other thing about the rates. But I appreciate that. Okay, all right. So, as far as, at least at our level, I'll make a motion that we, approve the Ehlers contract, for their portion of the help with any potential referendum, be it approved by the full board.
What's the possible cost on this?
It's right in here. It says, 4,500 up, and then a potential with a website for users to check another 1,500. So I'll put in a total of $6,000 in my motion.
Did you want to put a date? A motion,
Sorry.
a date for the referendum?
Oh, and let's advise the board that
You want to
it
do
would be easiest to do it for the August partisan election.
27 if you want to push it out.
Let's see what the comments are on the board. Allison.
I lost my page here.
I mean, we can have a discussion. I mean, are you for it this year? You want to kick it down the road a year?
No, I don't want to take it down the road.
We don't want to kick it down the road?
Yeah, because that's
We're good at that here.
happened in the past.
I don't.
Right, no, I they do it.
Okay.
The question is, the best time to do it.
Yeah, because, the getting rid of the, pick up the brush and everything is just the tip of the iceberg. If we don't do this.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying,
And to Casey's point, putting us in a strong spot to have a better rating once we get rated for future projects. Makes a lot of sense. Oh, I know what I was gonna say, Casey. Let me go back real quick to you if you don't mind. So the Federal Reserve lowered short-term rates, which is basically overnight borrowing. A lot of people don't understand that. And actually the 10-year treasury has risen from about 3.99 and change to about just shy of 4.10 yesterday. So just for everybody in the room, just because the Fed lowers rates doesn't necessarily mean long-term rates follow. It usually does, but the country is in so much debt that it's crowding out, and the bondholders are holding bond issuers to giving them these rates still in this range and not buying onto downward. Another little bit of education, Google and Meta have both gone out with over $30 billion in debts issuances here in the last week. Some of it in the United States, they issue some of it in European or Euro currency, and that spread has widened by about 2 basis points. So if, let's say the 10 years 4.1, and they were getting, according to the article, almost 1% higher, than Google and Meta are paying their bondholders 5.1. So that gives you perspective on what municipalities borrow. It's actually better than those folks, and they're floating in cash. So it's a little education that I like to do for everybody so that they, if they don't deal with this every day. All right, I'm for August. You said you want to go ahead, and that makes it easy so that the next iteration of this committee and or village board, it doesn't have to jam things in 9 days in the August turnaround with the new values and then create 2 budgets. Allison?
Yeah, no, I agree, August.
All right, all in favor? And first of all, I didn't have a
Did
second.
you get a second?
I didn't get a second. Who wants it?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? All right. View and possibly take action on the final draft of 2026 budget. And then,
Thanks, Casey.
thanks, Casey.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
And then review and possibly take action on municipal building designs. But, all right, Travis, what did you add from last month or clean up for those of us in the room and everybody who's here and concerned?
New added is our water heater is going in the village office, so we've added that to the CIP for 2026. As that is leaking currently, things just got.
It still works, but it's leaking. The water heater at the village hall is leaking, so it'll have to be replaced, so. How much ballpark on
We
that?
put 3,000 in there.
3,000, okay, all right.
So we've added that to the CIP. Not sure it wasn't on there before, so I don't know if it's when it was put in. There's a couple new charts added, as well, CPI versus property tax increase, which is an interesting read. Equalized and assessed values are also added in there, and charts for that. So, overall, nothing new on any changes to that, other than the CIP with the water heater.
You also bumped out, correct? If I'm wrong, we already bumped out some of the road projects to go every other year
Yes.
for a couple of reasons. One, just the fact we're doing any of this has obviously got people, concerned, which is understandable. Two, we don't want the village torn up every year going forward for 4 or 5 years straight. And three, we want, the impact, to be spread out, things like that. So those are the reasons why, when we started the iteration of the CIP, okay, and started putting in things and then getting the worst case numbers as best as we could. Sometimes we were low and we were off, and we were reminded of that as we were working on it. Spreading things out just makes things a little more digestible for future boards, for the residents, for everything. It also puts us in a running, correct me if I'm wrong, if we look at roads and getting grants occasionally, the LRP grant, they don't necessarily, like you going every year, okay? So your chances are better if you sort of come back every other year, so that would fit, so that we maybe optimize the opportunities for grants, okay? To everybody's question here in the building, and the concerns, I mean, we hear them, we understand them. To Charlie's point, to Jane's point, to everybody's point, we are looking at other things to lower that, but we can't change what we have now that the grant is in, okay? It's just like a road, we've got an LRP for the road in Fort Mott. We decided not to do the road, we wouldn't get the grant, okay? I'm only as good as my word, and they pay me $300 a month to do this. And so basically, there is no agenda here. We're just trying to get things on the table, address things, and come out with the best outcome. So anyway.
To ask the question, if suppose we don't get the grant, do we have the opportunity to scale this thing down?
We have to scale it down from today. Today.
And also too, if we get the grant, can we still scale it down?
That's a good question. Yes. I don't see where the state would go, oh, you built a smaller building and you're only going to take 1 million of, let's say the max is 2, and you're going to give us $1 million back. I don't see where that would be a problem.
I'm just concerned that we have a chance to revisit this.
Well, the other side of that, and please, everybody, the other side of that is there are people that are not in this room who, if they caught wind of this, would go, you're not even doing your fiduciary duty to pursue this grant. Okay?
Duty of care.
What?
The duty of care.
Yeah, you have a fiduciary duty there. We haven't spent the money yet. We're trying to line up all the pieces on the chessboard and then hopefully come up with the best outcome. Okay? So, and if it makes anybody feel better, my wife's not a big fan of this, but she's not on board. So anyway.
Yeah, I just want to be able to say, okay. I just wanted to ask the question. When we sent this out, what was the number?
The number that's for you to decide. The number that you want is for you to decide.
Anybody get back to you on that, or we just?
Only $1 and $3 million was his ask.
Yeah, so So my understanding, because we can't talk to each other outside of board meetings because we would have a quorum and we don't do that. The reality of it is, and then Travis will ask us questions occasionally and he'll take the homework. And yes, he said he sent it to all three of us and said, what would be a number you could live with? And I said 3 million. Okay, so if that makes everybody feel better in the room. You know, I would like to see the number lowered as well and pursue options as discussed and brought up to us, as well as the 2010 and piecing that
You
together.
gotta
So,
remember too, that that's not only 3 million, it's also the debt service too, that's gonna add to this thing.
unless we're lucky enough, like Mount Pleasant, where somebody's gonna pay for the whole thing for us.
Tell Helen Johnson to come over, that's a checkbook.
That'd be nice. All right,
But yeah, that's the only thing I got.
so I'm gonna make a motion that we,
If you want to adjust the number, you're more than welcome to adjust that number.
I have no problem explaining to my fellow trustees who are adults that 4.2 is, as people have quoted me, a placeholder, and that the consensus seems to be a number lower than that.
Yeah, because I like to take some of the residents' input,
I
I
agree.
got some inputs from
I agree.
another trustee, be able to lower this cost. Just look at this thing, okay, we got that number in here for the grant, you know, whether we're gonna get it or not is conjecture. But I want to have the ability to go back and look at this thing and say, okay, can we pare this down? As Linda said, you know, can we, I would encourage the committee to determine a cost for a smaller scale building that meets the current future needs of the village. You know, minimum requirements at a reasonable cost is what I'm looking for, okay?
So I'm just gonna add this. I debated on whether I add it or not. I reached out to a really close person to my family who is in commercial insurance. I asked him about ADA. And I sort of gave him the background of 2010 and all that. And I said they didn't do anything. And that person laughed and said, well, of course they didn't do anything. It was free. Right? Didn't cost them anything. I said, okay. I said, well, you know, now here we are again, possibly with things and all that. And I said, what happens if we get hit with an ADA lawsuit? He said, you are going to get creamed, was his exact words. And I did not reach out to our insurance agent, because why would I? So anyway, just to add that now.
You know, a real life example here in Hales Corner, right?
Yeah.
How much did you have to spend on that?
I don't recall exactly. We just had a laundry list of stuff we had to take care of.
Yeah. Yeah, they come down and say, you know, do it right away. Give us a plan. Yeah.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the budget with the CIP as is, with full understanding that there seems to be a consensus amongst the board and the residents to come up with a better, lower cost option. But I do not want to lose the ability to get the grant at $2 million. That would make this a home run.
Just so that's on record.
I just said it.
I'm okay with that.
I second. How's that?
Sound good? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstained? All right. Possibly take action on associate appraisal consultants contract. Travis, if you bring us speed on this. I know we touched upon it, I think, last time.
Did you want to do anything with A?
Well, that included it in the motion.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Still being worked on. It's
Okay.
not approved.
A is a new contract with Associated Appraisals, to go over a new plan of, how to take on, assessments each year. So, right now, we haven't done one since 2016, a full market revaluation. So you're dipped down to the 0.67 of the market. So right now, in order to not take huge dips in the mill rate with the village, I reached out to Associated Appraisal to ask them how we could keep a maintenance year and then a market update to make sure we don't have to do a $60,000 revaluation every 10 years. So we keep up with the market. So this was their best cost analysis. It's already in the budget, but just need to approve the new contract with them to be able to make those changes up until 2030.
I think it makes a lot of sense for a variety of reasons. One, as we talk about our operating deficit, to not get hit with the $60,000, it's easier to sort of spread it out and then adjust, hopefully with any referendum income. I think it's better on the residents some of whom probably didn't know this process was coming, even though it was put in a couple of things, but hey, get it, people miss it. And then see your house go up, like mine went up $215,000 or more. I know yours went up more than that, I guess, as far as percentage. I went up more than the percentage of the village. I went up 73%, the village was 67. So just to take that anxiety away from people, I think getting this on a regular basis and a little more annually, but not the big hit every 5 to 10 years, give or take, when the village would do it again, I think it makes a lot of sense. So I'll make a motion to approve the new.
Just one question I had, on the letter, it says 80,000, when you go into the contract, it says 50. What's the difference?
15 a year, isn't it? Roughly.
No, and you see, if you go to the contract, it says $50,000, and then on the letter that Travis sends, it says 80. What's,
So it's $15,000 each year, or you just divide it by the 4 years, and then you're going to have $16,000. Each year is a different price. So instead of just making it a different price each year in the budget, so if someone new comes in next year and I'm gone, they just have the 16,000, and it's just $60,000 each year.
Okay.
So it's just easier on that terms of it to make sure that like it's a solid number that the board knows, and that future boards know whenever you guys are gone or staff is gone, they know that that number is always consistent with the $16,000 a year. So that's to make sure it's
Can I ask a
consistent.
question? Then under 4 compensation annual amounts, $10,000 a year, is that in addition to the 15,000? Because there's the interim market updates. This is under the appendix.
Those are the annual amounts, and then the.
I just
Additional.
want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
know what
no,
we're
no.
paying. Because this is under the appendix.
Under which page?
I think 197. Okay, or 198. Says compensation. Municipality shall pay assessor the following annual contract amounts for maintenance assessment services, 10,000 a year. And then if you go down,
Yeah, so,
you pay for optional website posting. But you go to the next page for interim market updates. And then,
that's in 27 and 29. And those years would be 15,000 apiece. So you've got the 10 a year, which is 50. You got 2 times 15, which is 30, so you got 80. And so they're either gonna let us pay the 10 a year and then do the 15 in 27 and 29, or they'll take the 10 a year for 5 years at 50, the 2 times 15 of 30, and do the 80 over 5 years at 16. So the first part, Allison, is the annual compensation, the 10 grand, and then there's the 2 updates in 27 and 29 that are 15,000 apiece. They're gonna let us take those and spread that 30 for those 2 updates and make it
so
16.
but that's in addition, the 15, whatever. that's
Yeah,
in
the
addition.
10's the annual, the 15 are the updates, so we don't have to do the full McGilla
Right.
like was done this year.
50,000.
Yeah. And so then, you know,
Because the 10,000 is just the market, like the updated, and then
Yes.
to do your market update revaluation, it's additional. So
It
they
is a
just
15.
divided it out to be an equal number for budgeting purposes.
so
for us.
it ends up being 16,000 then. And that includes the 2 updates in 2027 and 29 versus the annual, which is the 50 portion of it. So it ended up being 16, Allison, but yeah, I see where that could be, you know, since it's 2 page and a half away, it could be a little confusing, but 16,000 a year, and then we don't have to deal with the 60. What are we paying now? Is it off the top of my head? Is it like 7, 8,
I think it's 9,000 for a market
which is
update year,
An
a
update
maintenance
year,
year.
yeah,
It's a maintenance
maintenance
year.
yeah, versus. So. All right. I'll amend my motion to recommend that we recommend to the board that we just pay the 16,000 a year, so it's a consistent dollar amount over the next 5 years, which includes the 2 updates in 27 and 29. A second. Did I clear that up for you, Allison?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this, so it's either, I just want to understand that So then it's what's just $16,000 a year or 15?
It's 16, no, 15 is for 27 and 29 reassessments, okay, because we had the one this year, so I'll do them every other year. All right, and 10,000 a year is the maintenance portion of what they do for us.
And
okay?
then where's that 10,000 a year coming in?
That's the page before that.
Right, I understand.
Okay, so we gotta start at that page. 10,000 a year, right? Are we good? All right, then we've got to go a page later where it says compensation. It says this
Right.
additional scope of service, additional scope runs simultaneously with the 26 through 30 contract, which is 10,000 a year. And that would be an additional 15,000 for each of those interim market updates, okay? So again, 50,000 for 5 years, 10,000 a year, which you got another page, and then 2 times 15 is 30. For a total 80, we can just pay the 10,000 a year, and the future budgets can have in 27 the extra 15, and 29 the extra 15 as well. To go with the 10, so it's, or you just combine it all like they're allowing us to do, divided by 5, and that's how it gets to 16.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what was throwing me.
So what's the difference between maintenance and the assessment? What are we doing differently?
Maintenance here is just your typical year when you do nothing and you just fill out the paperwork and make sure that the role is complete, and then the markup for the maintenance of the additional $15,000 would be the market adjustment in the home value prices, so that you're not dipping below the assessed value of your homes, so that the assessed value stays steady. Same with the mill rate, and the mill rate would stay steady. And so you're between that 0.95 and 1% of the market fair value. By law, you have to be by that 0.95. So instead of dipping down below 0.95, this allows us to stay consistent to make sure we're in between that ratio. Unlike without doing just maintenance years, which we did from 2016 to like this current year, we only did maintenance years, and that just made our value of the fair market value go from 1% all the way down to 0.67. That's why you saw your fair market values go up so high.
And
This allows
that's why they had to do the in-person as well, and gather more information on my house, your house, everybody's house.
All right.
So, but we can leave it up to Travis to decide whether we're gonna pay 16 annually. or-
I think we should just codify it and make it easy for future, boards and future, that it's just 16,000, and when the contract comes up, they can decide. I think it just makes sense.
Yeah, okay, I agree with that.
Yes, we don't do that.
That is for budgeting purposes too, then you're covered.
We don't tie into the 16, they could go up if we do the 10, 10, 10.
No, it's still a contract. We would pay the 15 and 27 and 29, but again, we're trying to make this as simple as possible when people want to look at the budget and go, what's fixed? What's always gonna be there? So, and also at the same time, so when Ehlers can help us take a look and get the word out about a possible referendum, what are your baked in costs? I'd like to personally just make sure we can flatline it.
Yeah,
Flatline it.
I agree, I agree.
All right.
All right, so I made the motion, second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstained? All right, review and possibly take action on Mueller Communication Contract. We had them last time give us a presentation.
Yep, yes, Mueller Communication gave a presentation on outreach on how to do a referendum with village staff and the board. And then they are planning on having a bunch of series of different events that would have like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. So that contract is here before you to go forward with using Mueller Communications to help market the referendum to voters about what our obstacles we're facing on our levy impact. And part of it would be working with Ehlers, finalize that question, and Mueller would then use it to do help with marketing campaign work.
How soon would they start if we made a motion and approve it? Again, I'm trying to remember from their last, would they start in January almost?
I think so.
That's what I thought.
I think December they would start getting the documents ready.
And then January through about May-ish, remember?
Yeah, because there's a cooling off period, I think.
Yeah.
So I think about June maybe too.
Okay.
But by the time early voting starts and all the voting kind of starts, there's like a cooling off period for things to kind of settle down and let voters decide.
Okay. Discussion before a motion. Go ahead.
Yeah, what's the possible total cost of this?
About 97,000.
Well, we budgeted last time and you would have to reference the memorandum I sent out. I think it was about $115,000. But we discussed and added that and approved it at the last board meeting.
Yeah, this is necessary because you want to do it right.
Oh, yeah. I
Because
mean,
we budgeted for it already in 26.
Yeah.
The board approved
it's,
it.
it's part of the 227.
No, I'm just trying to understand.
No, you're good. You're good. Every question is a good question.
Well, it makes no sense not to approve it.
Okay.
You've already
I'm just
approved it.
asking
You wanna make a motion?
I want to understand.
Move that we approve,
Okay.
and move the Mueller communication contract onto the board.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Allison, anyone opposed?
Yes. Oh, did you second? Aye.
All right, old business, we're going to possibly take action on ADA safety study on village facilities. I don't think we need to do that. Everybody's point in the room, you know, it's just, we already know the limitations. We've got the variantos from 2010 telling us where we're at, but it is my understanding that Mueller, correct me if I'm wrong, Travis, do they do facility studies very similar to variantos?
Yeah, and we could ask Excel Engineering to do an updated 2010 like skinny version to show kind of some different options. Saying that, you know, they would interview staff,
Okay.
they would interview key members of the board, and then they would put together a proposal to recommend the best option to build the building, or to what extent of the other interviews, it'd be whatever option maybe from the 2010 one that were discovered, but then they would make a recommendation like they did with the 2010 study. The 2010 study was option 6, and that's how we came to where we are today.
Okay. So they're basically doing, they would be doing an updated study on a possible village hall based on all the similar characteristics to the 2010 study, but bring it.
More
And
updated.
you would check with Mueller, as you said, Excel Engineering does those as well. That
Yeah.
would help us all, including village residents or stakeholders, obviously, very concerned. So, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of spending money on all these studies that we keep spending money on, but at the same time, we don't have the in-house staff to do it, you know, and none of us do it. And no offense, if I did it, you know, would people believe it? So it's good to have an independent, neutral arbiter go through, do those kind of interviews. So I'm gonna make a motion that we table this old business on an ADA study, postpone, and ask staff to reach out to pertinent companies that would help us to redesign and come up with the best village hall that we can come up with for the money. All right, second. Discussion? Worried about it yet? Sort of what you wanted, right? And as far as that.
That's right.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstained? All right, referrals. What you got, Travis?
The budget will go to the board, the other contract, the associated appraisal contract, communications contract with Mueller. I'll go to the board, and then staff will review with Excel Engineering to get a quote on how much the new skinny version of the 2010 study will get updated. So.
Yeah, I mean, they know, and we all know what the limitations are, and some of these things may not be able to get 5 or 6. There's always gonna be the no. But anyway, all right, appreciate that on referrals. We have a motion to adjourn. All right, all in favor? All right. All right, we're adjourned at 11:19. Thank you, everybody.
May I ask a question or verification? Anything?
I'll send on for
Yes.
today.
What has this
Yes, on the calendar.
relation to what Emily has said? Other than going back to 2010,
The calendar that's on the
what
bottom.
specifically, and where is it written that you're looking to renting into a smaller facility?
You,
Where? Where is,
So you
as
are,
a board, as a board.
But it says there's a bunch of rest day, and there's nothing, and it doesn't say.
you were at the one, listening session, you know, over there. Sure, there was a discussion that Travis called over about the renting and was told,
But
no. We have had closed session.
you don't, but there are alternatives. Just for the office and we still.
You don't have to
vote
vote meeting today.
Yeah, I got to vote.
And that's
But that all really us, are we given
I,
all the.
well, I didn't have it again.
That's what we're doing by that. Could take a look at Excel engineering and or be able to do something similar to the.
So what about, I've got the gist of it. Building on where the building is now.
That's what, yeah, that's what we just approved.
Yes.
Staff to bring back and referral. And we did have a closed session earlier in the year where we brought in 4 contractors to move components off the Excel plans, but we can't discuss the session. You know, so.
You're not spending the $20,000-$25,000.
No, we have not approved that. I'm one of the first people to say we're not spending a dime.
Are you going to tearing down the old place?
That'll be one of the things that we will ask them, yeah, like in the options, and that is one of the things, and I think that's great.
I don't know if that's what.
One more thing I can do.
Study was quickly redundant.
Yeah.
Pull them in.
One is, and one is, engineering, and so, similar to what they're now.